Okay, common question, very common throughout the league, especially at league start, is what atlas tree do I use? What should I do for X mechanic atlas tree? What's the best atlas tree? Whatever. And at the end of this video, you will know how to make your own atlas tree, and you won't have to wait for a creator or somebody else to make a tree for your mechanic. You'll be able to figure it out and do it yourself in this with just this guide. The first step is use pathofpathing.com. What this does, unlike other websites, is you just click the nodes you want and it highlights them green, and then it will automatically calculate the best path, so you don't have to figure out the path. There's going to be no wasted points. It just, just brings it right the most optimal way to what you want to get to. So that is a huge help. This is the site I always use out of pure laziness. It's very helpful. And you can click, like, if you want all Scarab stuff, which you wouldn't do, but okay, maybe say all Legion stuff. You click the center of the icon here and it will highlight all of the notables for Legion. And then you can also click it again and it makes it an X. You can do that with anything and then it will not path to that. So say it's pathing somewhere you don't want it to, you could click it again and it will make it an X. Or it just is default and it'll path through it if it's optimal and it won't if it's not. So let's get started. All you need to know to make the tree you want to make is you need to know what the mechanics do, obviously. If you don't know what the mechanics do, how are you going to make a tree for it? But making an atlas tree is way simpler than making a character passive tree, so it can be, it's obviously still overwhelming to look at, but it is much, much easier. I think any player that knows the mechanics can do it. If you don't know what the mechanics do, then you're obviously going to have trouble, but if you know what the mechanics do, you know what mechanic you want to focus on, you can make any tree you want, pretty much. It's really simple. So for most mechanics, you're just gonna click every notable, pretty much. I'll use Breach as an example. So you want to basically just click every notable, but most mechanics have a few notables that are pretty bad or very niche that you're not going to want to click. So for example, for Breach, like heavy breaches, your breaches open and close slower, unless for some reason you want them to close and open slower, which you shouldn't ever want, because if you need to do that for your build to clear breaches, you shouldn't be doing it anyways. But so though that one you're gonna like unclick, right? I have a document here which lists the bad ones that you shouldn't take, and it'll therefore tell you the good ones you should take. But most of them you just click all of them, and there's a few bad ones you unclick. I'll upload this document and put it in the description somewhere, like a Google Doc. And then you'll know to click. But the thing is, right, like maybe you're SF and the ones I say not to click, you actually want whatever they give. That's fine, right? This is just general, not for every single situation, just kind of a general overview. Like you won't go wrong if you follow this, but if you want something slightly different, that's completely fine. It's not gonna, you can't brick your atlas really. I mean, there's a few things that can, but you generally won't. But like flash breach, if your build can't handle it, unclick it, right? It's good, but if you can't handle it, unclick it. Now, for example, like here, if you're in Trade League, you're always going to want to click Chayula. The only reason you'd ever click any of these, basically, is if you're an SSF, right? These in Trade League are just completely inferior to Chayula. Chayula is always way more expensive. You'll make way more money. If you want to do Breach for money, you will not be clicking these other things because they're worth like 1/10 of what Chayula is, right? But if you're an SF, you might want to click them if you need that kind of breach zone, right? So it is going to be situation by situational basis. But if you understand the mechanic, you'll generally understand that you can click whatever you need. It's really what it comes down to. Click what you need. Now, the next thing is small nodes. This is not like a character passive tree. Clicking the small nodes on your atlas tree is actually good a lot of the time. Like for example, for Breach, you're going to want to click all of these. Those are all good. More breach splinters is good. More monster density means more monsters. More loot, it's good. So in this document, I've also listed for ones that need small nodes, I've said which you should take. So for example, for bestiary, you should take all of the ones except the ones that give an additional bestiary mission. Let me reset this. So going over to like bestiary, right? You're not gonna want these. Well, forget those. I'm just talking about the small nodes. It's listed here what you want, okay? So then the small nodes, you want all of them except additional mission chance. Unless you want missions if you're in like SF or something. But you see here, like these, additional chance to capture red beast, you're gonna want all of those, right? So some of them are good and you want all of them. And then if you come down here, see like additional chance to contain Einhar. Like let's say you have a bunch of Einhar scarabs, you're not going to want to click those. They're wasted, right? If you're using Einhar scarabs and he's guaranteed in the map, that's what you're going to want to click, right? Or not want to click if you don't want it. So be wary of that. Like here, if you're using scarabs, this is completely useless, right? It's basically what it comes down to. And then sometimes they're also just bad and not worth clicking. I don't know an example here, but it's something to think about the small nodes. So make sure you pay attention to those too. Like these ones are bad. You're not going to want to click these. They're bad. But these ones up here for Exarch give pack size. These are good, right? So I have that listed in this document. So yeah, that's about it. And then I also have here going over what keystones to click. Most of them are bad, and some of them have some things niche, more not really niche, but more specific things to do with them. And you're not going to want to just click those all the time. Now, also, like I said, this is just a general overview. Maybe some strategy uses these, and it's good for that one, right? But for the most part, you're going to want to stay away from most keystones. And then last part is if you're going to want to do map sustain. I have non-specific league nodes down here, so like non-league mechanics like map sustain. You're going to want to click these. Obviously, they're the map ones, higher chance, more higher tier maps. Something you're going to do is early on, you're going to want to actually click quite a few of these. It helps a lot with sustain. Maybe don't click all of them, but it's not bad to click them early on to get a little bit of an extra map boost. It used to be really good, but it got nerfed. So now, I don't think it's worth clicking all of them, but yeah. So early on, probably not a bad idea to click some of these. Just extra. So like, early on, you're going to want to take these really early in the league. Pretty much always, right? So instead of pathing through like Cryptic Gateway here, like you see how that paths through Cryptic Gateway? It saves you some points, right? But you're losing map sustain if you don't go through here. So you should opt for going through here. Don't be afraid to pick up those extra ones, right? These are not dead nodes by any means. So make sure you do that. And then the last thing, or second to last thing, any mechanic you're not doing, it is worth blocking them down here. So if you ever don't want to see something, like say you're focusing on, this is not a good strat, but let's just say you're focusing on Breach and Abyss. Probably don't do that. But if you're doing Breach and Abyss, you're going to want to block the other things because that makes it more likely for Breach and Abyss to show up. If everything else is blocked, right, these two are more likely to show up because the other things are not showing up. And then, I'm not going to get into it in this video because it'd take a long time, but maybe if you're interested in it, I can make another video. you're going to want to identify what synergizes with the mechanics you're doing. And I'll give like a kind of brief overview here. Obviously, the quantity nodes are good for pretty much everything. These nodes are pretty much good. Think of these nodes as your map gets slightly harder, but they give slightly more quantity too. So you're going to want to click those. If your mechanic that you're choosing really relies on pack size, like Harvest, you're going to want to click all of these that you can, because it gives a bunch of pack size along with quantity and rarity, because it just scales everything up. The difficulty and the loot, right? Same thing with like up here. This is the same thing as these, except it gives more per quality. But yeah. Then I have a section in here about the influence nodes, what to take and what not to take. Yeah, that's pretty much it. If I missed anything you want to hear about the Atlas, just leave a comment. I'll be happy to make a video about it if it's a decent topic and not just like a 30-second sentence to say. And if it's 30-second sentence, I'll just write in a comment. But yeah, don't be scared of making your own Atlas tree. It's pretty simple. Any spare points you have, just dump it into quantity or something. Click the nodes, click the mechanics you want. It's really simple. Compare pretty much anything you want up. Yeah, I mean, just don't overthink it, basically. Just click the nodes you want.